Good evening, I'm Van Jones. Welcome to the Van Jones Show. Tonight's installment makes me so happy. For once, I am not the only Jones on the air. We got the comedy genius, Saturday Night Live superstar, Leslie Jones with us tonight. I'm so excited. Oh, it's so amazing. It's hard to keep up with the Joneses. Hard to keep up with the Joneses. Also, I get back in my van. Yes, we really do call this segment Van in a Van. That's what we do. And I'm headed down to Georgia. This time, it's a state, Georgia, could elect the first black female governor ever in American history. You can clap for that. That'd be amazing. I got to tell you, when I got down there and I talked to the voters, I got a big shock. Two people on different sides of the thing politically both started crying in the van. Never happened before. You won't believe why. You got to watch that. But first, let's talk. This weekend actually marks the one-year anniversary of that horrific Nazi-led terror attack that happened down in Charlottesville, Virginia. The whole protest was billed sort of like a simple protest about removing a Confederate statue, but on the day of that rally, a bloodthirsty mob of armed just thugs showed up. They were chanting anti-black slogans. They were chanting anti-Jewish slogans. They were emulating Hitler's torchlight marches. And a deranged hate monger deliberately drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters. In other words, in broad daylight, in the streets of America, a man assassinated a young American named Heather Heyer. Now that's terrorism, exactly the kind of stuff that ISIS does. But somehow President Trump had a hard time condemning that murder in a forthright way. And for me, it was a really big low point. I think it was a low point for the whole country. And I had hoped that in the aftermath, we would finally come together. I mean, at least just to oppose hate speech, insane organizations, political violence. But it didn't happen. And in fact, the Anti-Defamation League now says that hate crimes against Jewish Americans have surged 57% in the last year. That's the biggest single-year jump since they started tracking this stuff back in 1979. And I just recently got a chance to see my amazing CNN colleague, a reporter named Sarah Seidner. She went down to northern Pennsylvania and she spoke to a white nationalist. Now this guy actually openly wears swastikas on his shirt, and he says America is his country because he's white. Listen to this.
We're staring down the barrel of a gun here in white America. There's still 193 million white Americans. Yes, the vast majority of them are in their 60s and 70s, will be in the ground in the next 20 years, and therefore we have the possibility of becoming a minority in our own country.
Now, to be fair, 12 of that guy's neighbors came out immediately and told Sarah they don't agree with this guy, he doesn't represent them in their community, and they deserve a round of applause for sticking up for what's right in this country. I appreciate them for doing that. But here's the thing that bothers me the most. Those same themes that were once considered so extreme are now becoming mainstream, at least in conservative media. Listen to Laura Ingraham on Fox News addressing millions of your fellow citizens and neighbors on her air.
It does seem like the America that we know and love doesn't exist anymore. Massive demographic changes have been foisted upon the American people. And they're changes that none of us ever voted for and most of us don't like. From Virginia to California, we see stark examples of how radically, in some ways, the country has changed.
Now, I see zero difference between what Laura Ingraham is saying on mainstream cable and what the Nazi was just saying in front of his house. It's literally, it's the same message, and it's wrong. But there is some good news in America. There are millions of people who refuse to accept this notion that America should be whites only or dominated by one race forever. In fact, all across the country, people are organizing, they're fighting back, embracing diversity in historic ways. This week alone, Democrats in Michigan's 13th district nominated Rashida Tlaib for Congress. Now, she's expected to win. Yeah, that's a good thing. She'd be the first Muslim woman ever elected to the U.S. Congress. That's a good thing. Also, it's been about 4 years since the death of Mike Brown in Ferguson. The residents in St. Louis County there voted to nominate a black man to be the lead county prosecutor, a guy named Wesley Bell. What's good about that is Wesley Bell believes in criminal justice reform, and he booted out the 27-year incumbent who had faced a lot of criticism for failing to charge the cop who shot Mike Brown in the first place. So organizing, paying off on the ground there. In other words, 1 year after Charlottesville, let's stay vigilant. America is not yet what it could be. It's not yet what it should be. but it's not what the worst voices in our country want it to be. And that's because people keep fighting. Let's keep fighting. Now, my next guest knows a lot about how you keep your spirits up in tough times. She keeps us all laughing. She keeps us all moving through these difficult times in a good way. Welcome to the Van Jones Show, a woman with the most beautiful last name in the world, the extraordinary Leslie Jones. So many.
It's like a gallery of me. This is dope. No. Can y'all come put this in my house? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we might. Listen, the last time I saw you, I was sitting behind you at the Black Panther premiere in New York City.
Oh, I was ghetto.
I wasn't gonna say nothing.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute, hold up. No.
You narrated the entire film, like the whole film. You had, listen, Denzel Washington was there.
Denzel was there?
Oh yeah, you didn't know because you was mouth.
Oh man, I didn't know Denzel was there. I'd have been like, Denzel.
You were the star of the premiere.
It was hilarious,
and I can't remember when the general was confronting the guy, and you said, "We gotta talk, boo."
Because they were dating. I was like, nah, hold up. You been trying to kick it with me at nighttime. Now you trying to fight me. No.
Anyway, so it was amazing. So
That's funny. I didn't know you was there. That's hilarious. No one knew about that until you just said it. Thanks, man.
No, everybody who was there knew it. Anyway, it's just such an honor to see you. Now, listen, you're from Memphis.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out, are we related?
I think we might be related. No, I'm serious.
My daddy.
We might be really related.
I'm just saying. No.
They got these little kits. I'm gonna bring out a kit, and we're gonna try to figure this thing out. I think we might be family.
I think we related.
And I might need a loan. So I might need a loan.
Oh, I don't give relatives money.
In which case, we're not related. I am just so happy for you, sister.
Thank you.
First of all, your second Emmy nomination. Give it up for that. That's unreal.
Insane.
Unbelievable. I want to hear from you. You told many people that you were happy to be nominated last time. This time you want to win.
Yes, I want to win this time.
What is your case for winning? Why are you better?
Because I'm good.
Why are you better?
I'm so good. You know what? I did my best to try to bring as much joy as possible this year through the Olympics, through my show, through the just because we need it.
Yes.
I think we've stopped knowing how to have joy anymore. Mm-hmm. I think that we've restricted what we used to call joy. Mm-hmm. We've restricted it so much.
Why is that? It's like because people are scared to say something to get them in trouble?
People want to say it started with Trump, but I think it kind of started before that. We just walk around a little bit too offended.
Too offended.
Too offended. I mean, let me put it like this. I'm 6 feet tall. I got size 12 feet. Real talk. If I got upset every time somebody said you got big feet, I wouldn't live.
Right.
Because they say it every day.
Right.
Like, it's amazing how many questions I get about handling the internet stuff. But I don't get how. Okay, I get how it can upset you.
Right.
But it can't stop my life because I'm like they're behind a computer.
Right.
Like if they was in front of me, like with a knife, you know what I'm saying, all that stuff, then I'd be like, ooh, this is a situation. But we talk about somebody that's in a basement behind a keyboard that I know I can beat up. I know I can beat them up.
No doubt.
I am not scared of them. I am not scared of them. And there's nothing that you can't call me that I ain't been called before.
That's right.
So
it's almost like not letting other people steal our joy. It's almost down to the point where it's more fashionable to be upset and more fashionable to be offended than it is to go ahead and be proud and loud and do our own stuff.
And I don't understand how you would want to live in anguish instead of happiness.
Mm-hmm. How does that affect your show? So
it don't affect me at all because I don't let stuff affect me. But I affect stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about the show. Let's talk about SNL. I'm a political junkie.
Yes, you are.
I'm a political nerd.
You're very political.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not.
Exactly. So when Saturday Night Live comes on, I'm glad because I feel like Trump is going to get put in his place, and it makes me very, very happy. But you said that you think maybe we're doing too much of the political comedy and other forms of comedy are being neglected. Talk about that.
When I started comedy in '86, my biggest goal, when me, Alex Thomas, Dara Heath, would sit in the back and watch comics, we would just go, I just want to be funny. I just want to look how these people laugh. I just want to make these people laugh. As a comic, that is the center thing that's important to make, for me.
Absolutely.
And I'm speaking for me, that I make people laugh. That's what we do as comics, is make people laugh.
And do you feel we're getting too far
that
from the funny into the...
I understand that we have to have the smart comics, the satire comics. I'll say it like this. We need the Three Stooges and Tom and Jerry just as much as we need Dennis Miller. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, everybody doesn't laugh at the same thing.
Right.
My problem is stop telling people what they're supposed to laugh at.
Listen, let me ask you a question. It seems to me that you see laughter as almost a necessary ingredient. It's almost,
I was going to say that.
Almost like if you are in pain, actually the laughter is better. And you're saying people are in pain, are stuck in the pain, and won't laugh at it.
Yo, let me tell you something. Yo, that's real talk. Yo, come on, you guys. Let's think about the comics that we've had in the histories. In the history of comedy. Yeah. Like we've had the Eddie Murphys, and we had Richard Pryor, and all of them talked about very personal things.
Absolutely.
How can I put this? Whenever I'm feeling bad about something, I go on stage and make it laugh. Make the elephant in the room laugh. Just like music is a release, just like when you watch TV is a release, comedy is the same thing. Laughter is an actual release. You know how when you feel bad and you put on your earphones and, hey, that's a release.
Yeah.
Hey, so is laughter. Like, let it go. Like, let it go. Like, let it gurge through your body and let it go. Like, how do you not laugh at something that's wrong with you? Like, does that make sense?
It does make sense.
It's just so much healthier to laugh at it and accept yourself.
It takes
a lot of people are offended because you haven't accepted who you are. And when somebody point it out, that's when you get mad. Do you get what I mean? Somebody come up here and be like, oh, you're being a little bitchy. Oh, what? What you mean by that? I'm being, yeah, you being a bitch. You know what that is. You know what I'm saying? Accept what you are.
I got you. Look, we have a lot more to talk about. All right. Look, we got a lot more to talk about with Miss Leslie Jones when we get back, including how she found success in her 40s. But before we go to break, here's some of what you had to say about how we are faring 1 year since Charlottesville. Take a listen.
If anything, we're more agitated and we are more on guard.
In the year since, I am more hopeful. I'm more inspired because people all across the country, Democrats, Republicans,
So listen, I mentioned before you came out that you found success in your 40s.
47.
47 years old. You were doing this in your 20s, in your 30s, in your early 40s. You got people in this room and people who are watching who have dreams that feel like they're constantly being deferred. How did you stick it out? How were you raised? How were you able to stick it out for decades before you got to here?
You know, it's again, when I started, I really wanted to be a comic.
Yeah.
I think you have to really want what it is that you are going for. You really have to want it because there's going to be a period of time when you're not successful. So if you're in it for the money, you might as well quit now.
Right.
Quit now. If you're in it for the fame, quit now. If you're not in it for anything else but loving what it is that you do, then you're just going to fail.
Right.
Because the nights of coming home going, damn, I need to use my degree. Yo, like, I mean, there was times I went in for job interviews and they didn't give me the job interview because they saw me on BET and it was like, oh, you're going to make it.
Oh, really? So
you're going to make it.
Yeah, but right now I'm hungry.
Well, right now, I was Blockbusters. It was like, yo, I saw you. You're going to make it. I was like, right now,
yeah.
Kind to rewind, babe. I need to pay the rent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you have to really love it. I love making people laugh. And let me tell you, it was not easy because I had 46 years of thinking I was not going to make it.
Wow.
And
who helped you keep going? Who was in your
God?
corner? God. Please say that on CNN.
No, for real, God. I don't know how anyone survives without God. My faith that I have has brought me through so many hard things. And my parents, my brother, all of them has, and like. That's what I believe in. I believe in having faith in yourself and having faith in God, because once He has faith in you, and you just got to work. You got to work.
Give her some applause for that.
You got to work. You got to work.
Yeah.
You got to want it. You got to keep wanting it, because Lord have mercy, it's not easy. You have to keep wanting it.
What's amazing to me about you is that, listen, you're in movies, you're on television. You don't have to go out and do the stand-up stuff anymore, but you still go out there and you still talk to people. What are you getting out of being in front of the audience? Talk to me.
No, but that's so untrue. I do have to do, because that is my soul. That's where I started. This SNL, that's extra. That's extra stuff. I've been doing comedy since 1986. That was the way I paid for my bills, my money, my food, my everything.
But can I just say something?
I know I'm good at it. I'm good at it. I'm good at it. I'm not saying I'm not good at what I do.
But what I'm saying is, you got other income now. You don't have to do it from an income point of view.
I do have to, because I have to make people laugh, and I'm the only one who can do it.
You got a calling on my life.
No, real talk, I have some joy and energy to give people that they need.
Yes.
Y'all need me. Y'all just don't know y'all need me. Y'all need me so bad. Because and like I said on The View, y'all not, people are walking around offending and they not letting comedians do their job. And I'm telling y'all so unhappy because y'all not laughing.
Yeah.
You're not laughing. Every time a comedian comes on and does a joke about Trump, that doesn't make you happy. It does not make you happy. When the last time that you have belly laughed? Like, seriously, like, that's what I do. You can keep the little satire, that's so clever. You can keep that. I want you to be sweating when you leave my show. Yeah.
What do you see in the American people that you wish more people saw?
Yo, actually, we care more about each other than you think. Yo, real talk. Like, we care about each other. We're just so damn offended that we just don't want to know that we care. You know, we just, all of us got a chip on our shoulder. Like, knock it off, because real talk, this country is going to have to really get rid of that to heal. You guys, I'm so serious. We're going to have to look into each other, and we're going to have to start being nice to each other. Stop thinking that you're going to make it in this world without someone else. We need to help each other. We need to be kind to each other. That is how we're going to heal all this stuff.
I love that.
I'm so serious. I get it. I don't know what y'all here for. I get it. I truly get it, because Trump is awful. He's really awful. He might be one of the most awful that we've ever had. But this country is way more actually than the president, man, and we always have been. We the people.
You know, speaking of being kind, and you mentioned that people raise this all the time, that, you know, at the height of your thing, you have the Ghostbusters movie, like you're breaking through, all of a sudden these like nobody trolls and bots and people started jumping on you online.
Oh my God.
Talk to us about that, because there are other people who are also being bullied and harassed. What was your experience of that?
Okay, I'm going to tell you from the beginning. It was a bunch of people with evil as their goal.
Right.
It wasn't like they were joining together to say some nice things to me. They were joining together in evil to do something. And that's what upset me. I was like, oh my God, they're believing in what they're sending me. But let me tell you something about me. I don't let it live there. I know who I am, and I know what they are. That's what, if you're getting bullied right now, please take a second to step back and go, this is not real. This is not reality. Because if those people saw you on the street, they would not say none of that. Why are you scared of somebody that's hiding behind a keyboard? And I get it, because those evil messages are coming in. But please know that that's all it is evil. And block it. Block the evil. I used to respond to it because I'm a comedian. So, you know, I'm a comedian. I'm like, oh, no, I'm a snap. Oh, no, your mama, too. Yeah. But that's what they want. They want that attention. Yo, let me tell you something. Blocking is my best friend. I don't even answer people no more. As soon as they say something, block. That's how I answer questions now. Block. I done had people hit me and go, I think you blocked me by mistake. No, block. Block them and block them out your brain. And please, please, you have to talk to yourself. And you have to have a conversation with yourself and say, hey, this is not real. This is evil. Yeah. This is another entity. Don't let it in your life. It's really not real. Yeah. It's not real. Those people really ain't real.
Well, listen, I tell you, you are real, and you are one of the real people we have in American life, and we love you for it.
You are real, man.
Listen, we truly, truly, truly love
Thank you. I know,
give it.
It's so sweet. I'm like tripping out. I'm tripping out because, you know, me and Keenan, we're on that show doing some stuff that y'all don't even know, that we're making breakthroughs for people to do stuff in the future.
Beautiful.
Like, real talk, you guys got to support us. Yo, especially the sisters, brothers, y'all got to support us, yo. Y'all got to support us.
You got it.
Like, Keenan been on TV. Keenan's been on TV since he was 8 years old. That's a shame that man getting an Emmy nominated just now.
Yeah.
That man is so good at what he does.
Good luck to you at the Emmys. We're gonna be rooting for you. Exactly.
Oh my God, y'all gotta be cheering for me, man. Y'all gotta be like doing all the prayers, get the oils, call the pastor, all that.
When we come back, I'm gonna hop in my van. This time I'm gonna go
you
to the.
You gonna go in a van?
Van in a van. It's my show. You gotta watch my show. It's called Van in the Van, and I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia. We're gonna go
right now.
No, it's on tape. You missing my show.
You're gonna drive to Atlanta right now? That's like 4 hours.
Listen, when we come back, you'll see me in my van. We'll see when we get back. It's being billed as the battle of the bases. The governor's race in Georgia is perhaps the most emblematic of the 2018 political climate. The Democrats think they got a real shot at flipping a deep red Georgia to blue. They got this nominee named Stacey Abrams. Now, if she wins, she'd be the first black female governor in the history of the United States. But on the Republican side, you got a guy named Brian Kemp. He's the Secretary of State there. He describes himself as a politically incorrect conservative. And he's got the strong backing of President Trump. So this race is going to come down to whose base is more energized and which candidate is most palatable to moderates and independents in the middle. Now, voters are considering a host of issues in Georgia: gun control, voting rights, whether the state's Confederate memorials, including Stone Mountain, should be removed. So I went down to Atlanta, got back in my van to talk to some of the voters down there. Take a look. Atlanta, Georgia, in the world headquarters. All right, here we are in Atlanta, Georgia. Got one of the biggest governor's races, not just in the country, but in American history going on. Hey, Shelby.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
All right. Hey, guys, how are you?
How are you?
Hey. Welcome. Perry, why do you like Stacey Abrams?
Oh, I don't just like her, I love her.
Why?
She sees people as individuals and understanding the struggle from poverty, getting an education for herself, her faith, and just her ability to be relatable was eye-opening and encouraging, that I was like, okay, I need to insert myself in this in whatever way possible because she's it.
Christian, what appeals to you about Mr. Kemp?
Well, Brian Kemp is a strong constitutional conservative. He appreciates the Constitution. He wants to protect the Second Amendment. He wants to lower taxes, and he's also very strong on illegal immigration.
I know there's a big conflict going on in this state. Brian Kemp was the Secretary of State. He was accused of knocking off a bunch of African Americans from the voter rolls. He said, look, I'm trying to prevent voter fraud. Did that bother you, Christian?
Not really. I think what bothers me a lot more is illegal immigrants voting and going ahead and practicing a constitutional right that is not theirs.
I'm really uncomfortable with the language of referring to people as illegals, because humans aren't illegal.
Well, I use the term illegal. I mean, Bill Clinton used it in 1994.
You love Bill Clinton? You want to do everything he does?
No.
Okay, just making sure. So.
I don't really have time for political correctness because you're sugarcoating the issue. These are people that came here illegally, and that is a big issue.
You know, Brian Kemp seems to be like a local version of a Donald Trump. Are you happy that you've got kind of like a local Trump running?
Oh, yeah, it's great. I love it.
Why?
But, I mean, you know, there's that going on. But, look, there's certain things that you do to win elections. He's been a bit provocative just because he has to win. He had to win the primary.
Isn't that what they said about Trump? That Trump's just being provocative, and then he got in there. He's still being provocative.
Well, I don't think Brian Kemp is like Trump that way. I mean...
How do you wind up as a moderate, seeming, independent-seeming person pulling the lever for Donald Trump?
Yeah, you know, even in that election, I had a very difficult time choosing. And what it came down to for me was Supreme Court seats. I feel like this is like a lot of the elections that we've seen across the last year. It's very polarizing. The middle is kind of getting lost, and I often find myself in these situations thinking if we could blend aspects of the two candidates, I'd be great.
Do you believe that Stacey Abrams is actually lighting some fire among just ordinary black voters?
Yes. Yes. I think that because people of color aren't used to seeing their faces in every day on the television and in positive ways, I think that it absolutely activates us in a way to feel more included in life and to not feel so discarded and ignored.
I think that it could actually come back to bite you. I mean, if you take a look at black unemployment in this country, lowest ever in our country. So that has a lot to do with President Trump. So you could be energizing people on the grassroots level to go out and vote, but they may not vote Democrat. They may vote Republican.
What's the case for supporting Democrats if you're black now?
I think because the face feels new. Because I think that our country is different. I think our needs are different.
So it's just for you, it's just racial symbolism?
No, it's oh my God, that sounds terrible. I'm so much more than just black. I'm very proud to be black. But I think that same question with being a woman. It seems like it's a rise and an upheaval of something new and different. I think that's legitimate. I think that not just being a woman, but being a black woman is a game changer.
Well, what difference does it make the identity of the candidate, though? You know, who cares if the person's black or if it's white or if it's a male or female or whatever?
Well, that's part of white privilege. My race, as well as my gender identity, my everyday decisions in my world. It's who I am.
Well, I think each and every one of us are privileged to be in this country, regardless of race.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Stone Mountain Park. Oh, I'm super nervous about coming here.
Why?
The etching in stone is a monument to domestic terrorism.
Why do you say that?
It's a celebration of Confederacy. It's a reminder to black people that we should have never been freed. I'm actually shaking right now.
That makes me so sad because
Yeah.
I don't identify with it that way. But coming here, I think of all the times with my father, my family. And so this seems like a happy place. And to hear that it's hurtful
I can
to
appreciate
you.
that. If I didn't have my seatbelt on, I would hug you.
It makes me sad that's the impact it has on you, but this is the place where I have really happy memories. I could never sit in your shoes, but I don't view the carving that way.
How do you view it?
I mean, KKK rallies were here for a reason. It feels like a threat. It feels like a consistent and looming, hard, granite, solid threat.
Christian, how do you think about this sort of period of our history and how it's celebrated or not? Stacey Abrams says she wants to get rid of Stone Mountain.
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the Civil War. I used to be a Civil War reenactor, actually for the Union. So, and I have to tell you that I I 100% agree from both of your stances on this, and I understand where you're coming from, absolutely, but there are lots of people here in Georgia whose ancestors fought in the war. They died for their cause, and I have to tell you, a lot of those people disagree with why their ancestors fought, but nonetheless, their ancestors died for the cause, and this is what these statues are meant to commemorate.
The integration and of the North and South.
There's a Confederate flag on that guy's jacket right now. And that I see that as a threat. Like my heart is racing. I don't feel safe.
Do you think that he is wearing that jacket because he hates black people, or is it would hurt you?
That's what that symbol means to me, yeah. There's a lot of power in that symbol. There's a lot of history in that symbol. There's a lot of blood and hatred in that symbol. And I feel it.
Does this whole conversation motivate some voter turnout on your side? A sense that things that are important are under siege, that history might get erased?
Well, there is, on the ground, there's a little bit of concern for sure, because, as I said, a lot of people are concerned that these are monuments that represent their ancestors, and they could be taken away. I don't know what it's like to be black in this country, or racism. I'm not going to pretend that I do, but that's all I can tell you through my experience, what that means to some people.
I think the fact that we're even having these questions and having these conversations and wanting to know more and wanting to hear the other side, that's where we start.
Powerful conversation. Coming up, I'm going to sit down with a true hero, the whistleblower of the Flint water crisis. Where do things stand right now in Flint? How is she trying to prevent the same thing from happening any place else? That's next. Welcome back to the Van Jones Show. My next guest is a true American hero. She's the Michigan pediatrician who actually blew the lid on the Flint water crisis. She's also the author of a new book, What the Eyes Don't See. It tells the story of how she exposed these toxic levels of lead in the drinking water that was poisoning children. And she says that the fight for Flint is not over. Please welcome to the Van Jones Show, Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha. It is just, first of all, it's just good to see you again. I was one of the many people that came to Flint. You took me around. You took a bunch of people around. We could not believe what we were seeing. What is happening on the ground right now in Flint? Usually, if it's not in the news, people assume it's all fine, it's all fixed. Is Flint fixed?
No, and that's one of the reasons I wrote this book. I started it over 2 years ago to put a spotlight back on Flint, because our story is ongoing. We are still in a state of public health emergency. The people of Flint are still on filters and bottled water as our damaged lead pipes are being replaced.
How is it possible that this happened? When you talk to the Republicans, they say it was a Democrat city council, it was Barack Obama's EPA. The Democrats say it was a Republican governor. Help me understand what happened, how did it happen, and then we'll talk about what can be done about it.
Yeah, so Flint essentially lost democracy. So we were a city that was almost bankrupt. And in Michigan, if your city's almost bankrupt, the state can swoop in and take over democracy. So we were under state-controlled financial emergency management. And that emergency manager's job was one thing. It was austerity. How do we save money and cut costs? And they decided that this poor, predominantly minority city was too poor to get water from the Great Lakes anymore. And they decided to save money by switching to the Flint River until a new pipeline was to be built.
Now, your job is, you're not some EPA inspector. Your job isn't supposed to do this. Why did you stick your neck out as just a doctor? To take this thing on? You had to break some rules and break some eggs to do that.
Yeah, so I'm a pediatrician, and I literally took an oath to protect children. I took an oath when I became a physician to speak up for the kids that I was entrusted to care for. So when I heard that there was lead in the water, as a pediatrician, that's something that you have to act on.
Why? What?
So lead is an irreversible neurotoxin. So that means it hurts children's brains. It impacts cognition, how kids think, it drops IQ levels, it impacts behavior. We have learned so much about lead in the last few decades, and we now know there is no safe level of lead. We also know that lead is a form of environmental racism. Our kids in Flint already had higher lead levels, just like kids in Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia. Kids already suffering from so many toxicities. Lead and poverty and all these other issues are already burdened with higher rates of lead exposure.
But you didn't have to do what you did, and in fact, what you did, you weren't supposed to do. You're supposed to go through a long process to make sure that all your claims have been vetted by 1,200 other people or whatever. It's supposed to take 5 or 10 years. You rushed out and held a press conference. Why would you take that kind of risk with your own profession and break those rules in a situation?
Yeah, and that's the story I wanted to share with this book, the story of resistance and disobedience. I could have minded my own business, done my work as a pediatrician, seen my patients, ignored the noise, went through the long peer review process to get this research out there. But that would have taken too long. And my kids in Flint, who are no different than my own children, did not have an extra day to spend. So we were disobedient, and we resisted, and we spoke up. And that is a lesson that we all need right now.
Thank you for that.
To be active.
Before we get to what can be done, I just want to point out, you are an immigrant. Your family came here from Iraq by the way of the UK. If anybody's making America great again, it's Dr. Mona. She's making America great again as far as I'm concerned. How does it strike you, this whole tone that, refugees like your family who are escaping shouldn't be here?
And that's absolutely weaved into the story, because to know what I did in Flint and why I did it, you need to know where I came from. And I came to this country when I was 4, fleeing tyranny, dictatorship, fascism, coming to this country for that American dream, for freedom, for opportunity, for democracy. And that was realized for me and my family. Lady Liberty opened her arms and welcomed me and my family into this country. And I grew up competent and confident. I grew up with a lens that made me every day grateful to be in this country, realizing how lucky I was to be here, but also realizing what injustices are and how terrible people in power can be to vulnerable populations. And that is why I pledged my career to serve and to be in places like Flint. So what is happening right now in this country, where we are closing our doors to these children, literally closing our doors, crossing our arms, not letting these kids come in, who were the same kids as I was a few decades ago, you must wonder what we are going to miss out on. So I wanted to share a positive immigrant story, especially from a country that's majority Muslim, where we are seeing a rise in hate crimes.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm so glad you're here, and I know for a fact that the parents of those children are glad that you're here too. What can we do? Listen, I think everybody should get your book. It's a beautiful book. It's an amazing book. But what else can we do to help the folks in Flint right now?
Yeah, so you're right. Buy my book.
Yes.
It's on Oprah's summer reading list, which is fantastic. Amazing.
Oh, it's the best.
So part of the proceeds of this book go to our Flint Kids Fund. So flintkids.org, that is a way to give back. So this story is very much about the crisis. It's about the activism and resistance, but it is about the hope. We are doing amazing things in Flint right now, protecting our children that aren't being done anywhere else.
You said that it's irreversible, some of the things that have happened to these children, and so this is a story that's going to go on for a very long time. But your heroism and your leadership is something that's going to go on for a very long time too. I want to thank you for being here. The book is called What the Eyes Don't See. Coming up, there's got another environmental tragedy happening across the country. I want to talk with you about that and why we should all be alarmed about the largest wildfire in California's history and the president's troubling response or non-response. That's next. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to talk to you for just 1 minute tonight about the wildfires we've been seeing in California this week. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of numbers at you, but these are life or death figures. Right now we have 12 fires that are raging, including the largest one in the history of the state. More than 600,000 acres have already been torched. We already got billions of dollars of damages, and tragically, at least 7 people have already died as a result. Now, if this feels like the new normal, these big fires, that's because, sadly, it is the new normal. 4 out of 5 of the largest fires in California's history have all happened since 2012. 4 out of 5. That is scary stuff. But probably the scariest thing to me is the president's total refusal to acknowledge what's making these fires bigger, more common, and more dangerous than ever. Too much planet warming, carbon pollution in the atmosphere that's heating everything up. Donald Trump's tweets, they don't even make sense, okay? Donald Trump says that the firefighters can't access readily available water to put out the fire. That's not true. The firefighters have plenty of water. What they don't have is the ability to control the weather, which is hotter and drier than ever. And it's not just the United States, not just California, all around the world. Deadly heat waves. 80 people have died in Japan as a result of a record heat wave. 92 people died in a wildfire in Greece last month, made worse by the hot, dry conditions. We got to face reality. We got one planet to live on, and human pollution is changing the atmosphere at an alarming rate. Deadly climate disruption is not just a crisis for the future. It's here, it's now, and fortunately, we got some young people trying to do something about it. 21 activists sued the Trump administration for ignoring the perils of climate change, and the Supreme Court just ruled that their lawsuit has merit. So big shout out to the Earth Guardians and Our Children's Trust for fighting for a better future. The rest of us need to step up too and insist that the politicians in both parties curb the pollution, give us clean energy, and in the meantime, let's keep California's 13,000 brave firefighters in our prayers. I'm Van Jones. This is The Van Jones Show. Peace and love for one another. Thank you very much.